Day of our Node journey. Sorry?
No, I was just celebrating. Yay.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah. So, now we start. This module is for building, basically learning how to build your backend and how to build routes, how to handle the server side of your application. So, yeah, that should be fun. And today's lesson is about intro about the basics in Node.js. And from Wednesday we will start to have lessons about the actual Node and right. So today we have a bit of Node, and from Wednesday we will. I think. Let me just double check that. Where's my actually VS Code? Sorry, let me just double check. What do we have? So, module 4, event loop. Oh yeah, and on Wednesday you have Express. So you will have Express lesson, and basically you'll start writing. Today we will talk about HTTP HTTP servers, which you will never probably build because nobody uses HTTP servers, like the native, I would say, the syntax for Node. Everybody's using Express. This is a framework for Node. That is why, because the syntax of HTTP part is just ugly, of the HTTP package. That is why people just using Express. It's much faster, simpler, and yeah, it's easier to build your stuff. But yeah, let's start. So, as you might guess, Node.js is still just JavaScript. And you already did a bit of Node.js on the first module when you were working with your CLI application. And that was Node. You didn't have any server, but it still was a Node because Node is JavaScript, but not in the browser. It is in your terminal or the server. So it kind of headless, you might say, but yeah, this is pretty much it. So this is still JavaScript. As you might guess, why, and this is the reason why we decided to have Node.js as a part of this course, is because it's still JavaScript and it is fast. It is very popular now. I know Ricardo will say PHP forever, but no, don't trust him. So it's just easier for developers. You learn one language and you can write front end and the back end. So yeah, it has minor difference. It has a few extra features, I would say, that allows you to build servers. But yeah, this is still JavaScript. So don't think.
And the way it looks is always like we did when we did the CLI? Or?
Yeah, pretty much it. It's like,
okay.
This
you
is.
Don't have any kind of backend that looks like a database stuff.
So this is database. The stuff that you're talking is database, and we will show you a few different types of database like MySQL and MongoDB, and we will show you the applications that you can use for UI to visualize your data in database, or you can just see your database in the terminal. Yeah. So yeah, this is pretty much it. So event loop is, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know why it's that a big deal. It's like everybody's mentioning event loop in Node.js, and you might find a lot of articles about that in the internet. But to be honest, event loop is just the order of execution of your code. And you, again, with promises, because we've covered, maybe this is like a big topic when people starting from Node.js and they don't know JavaScript good. That is why for them that might be something like what is event loop and how it works. But for us, it just, you're executing your code, and that will be executed in the same order. Or if you have await async or like some set timeouts, it will just like first come and first will be executed. So here we have it like an basically an example, right? So we have 3 functions, and we have all where we're executing all 3, and we executing them separately. So you might tell me what we will see in the terminal when we execute this code. So let me actually quickly copy to the wait a second. Let me just create terminal, cd desktop, and get here lesson code. Okay, so
it's quite a cool way to access visual code.
Yeah, so let me just create index.js for us. Beautiful. We didn't. Yeah. So what we will see, in what order we will see, in which order we will see the messages? Tell me. I just need to change quotes. Come on. Any ideas?
It's gonna follow the line, so it will be 1, then 1, 2, 3, 3, 2.
Yep, I agree. So let's test it. By the way, the first tool that I'm not sure have you installed that on module 1, but we use NodeDaemon to have like a hot reload for the application.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so we have 1, then 1, 2, 3, then 3 and 2. Yep, that's correct. And if you add that set timeout, let's add timeout. Do we want to? Yeah. When we will see this one?
One second after, or will be at the end of the.
In the end of our calls. Yeah. So if I save, we have 1 after all of them, right? Even the order is different. It's still, because it's asynchronous, it's waiting 1 second and then execute. So yeah, you basically, again, for you it's nothing new because you already did asynchronous. You work with timeouts, intervals, etc. And here.
So what do we call the event loop? Is it the set timeout here? Or
no, event loop is basically the order how it's executing.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I will show you some slides in a second. But here, if you change to 0, all right, I've saved. So it still comes last because set timeout still has, if you dig into documentation, it still has like 0.47 or like just 47 milliseconds or something to execute even if you have 0. So that means that you still have that this one will come last because you still have like a delay because of the set timeout.
Yeah, I think the minimum is 40 milliseconds for set timeout.
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember the exact number, but yeah. So let me just show you quickly event loop NodeJS. So again, this is like a big things. Where is it?
Intensive operation.
Yeah, let me just check stuff. For here they focus on requests, but actually we want to see. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, basically event loop just taking the your requests and then it register in a stack what should be executed, and if it comes first, it goes out last. Basically, it's a stack. I would say I will probably send you a video how it works, because people just doing like animation for that. It's just useful to see how it works.
So in your previous courses, when you did a little bit of Python, did you ever created a console app that uses a menu? Like whenever you run the app, gets you a menu, then choose one to add a record, 2 to delete a record, 3 to edit a record, that kind of things. Have you ever built something like that?
I think you built it in CLI.
Yeah, we did with Node.js on CLI.
Yeah.
Okay, because whenever you create an app like that one, basically you're calling like the main function that has the menus, and then if you go you go to a different function to do something else. So that main function that you call when the program runs is the loop. So as soon as it starts waiting for a command from you in that main loop before actually going somewhere else in the program. So that is the concept of the loop in here. It's just that here you're going to be dealing with HTTP request, but the main loop is where the program is starting, waiting for 1, 2, or 3 from your menu to just diverge in those directions.
Yeah, so you basically build a queue for different processes that needs to be executed, and you build a stack. But again, it's better to show you an animation. We probably can draw some our own, but yeah, I'll share you some video about how it's working.
Cool.
So yeah, code. This is again after 3 modules of JavaScript. It's probably nothing new that code inside a function only runs when you invoke it, right? And we like Node.js also has async and callbacks, etc. So it still can be asynchronous for us. So the next step is something that is new for you for sure, is process. So this is a global variable, like a global object, where you have an access to all processes of your computer. So you can get, I'm pretty sure that PHP has the same, right? Yeah, so you can get a lot of data from about what's going on your computer, and you can get some different ports that are running. You can get so ports, some even files, the system structure, etc. A lot of things, basically everything about your system. And this is this is a huge part of Node.js, and they have their own official documentation about that. And as you can see, we have quite a few things here. So you can check to use it. You just need to require a process, and you can start using this variable. This is a global object again, and you can just start executing and see what's going on and what you can get. So for us, we want to talk about argv, because this is what you can get from your command line. So you can retrieve some data. And I remember I did it in C course. That was the first time for me. That was some magic that we can actually pass something, and it is catching in argv. So let me actually show you an example. So const require process require, we have process, and here what we will do is, so we have process, and then we want to console log
Is that a function the require process? Yeah.
process dot argv. So let's see what do we have. So if I run node index, we already get in an array, right, of things. So it takes the node, basically where we have our node, and it shows the absolute path to our file that we're executing. So I'm not doing anything else, right? But we can actually get this information from, we can pass some information inside your file from the terminal. So actually, let's copy this command. And you can see we just pass in 2 more arguments, right? We pass in 1 argument fast and another argument level 9000.
Where did you copy that?
This was from our slides. But what we can do is basically node index.js and like kitten. And you're passing kitten inside. Yeah? So you're actually catching your kitten here.
So argv, what does it do? It shows you what is open, yeah?
No, argv basically giving you ability to pass something from the command line to your file. So you can handle this like input, like, I don't know, you can pass a name, like name equals Alex, hit enter, and you pass in the argument.
Think about it the same way that whenever you create a function, you can pass some arguments. Here, you are passing arguments to the whole application. So whenever you start application from the command line, you provided some arguments for it to work with it the same exact way as you do it whenever you pass arguments to a function.
Yep.
It's just that here we're doing it for the whole program.
Okay,
Yep.
but so what is the user local bin node and the user's code?
So this is where the node comes from. The whole node application, the root to the application of like node that you installed on your computer.
Right.
This one is the absolute path to this file, right? To our index.js file.
Yes, okay, got it.
So this is absolute path. And this one,
You have them always, these two then. You always have
yes.
And what file is open. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Again, so sometimes you want to run, imagine that you have a huge application with different versions, and you might saw in different, I don't know, maybe lessons or maybe some other videos that people running some commands like -v, for example, 2. So version 2. So you actually passing the argument with version 2, and you can parse it, you can get this data and do something with it. Yeah?
You can do something with it in your terminal. Then.
In here, basically in here. So if I do 2, I'm getting this one.
Ah, okay. So, okay, now I understand. So basically, that helps you interact with your terminal, basically.
With my application from the terminal. Terminal is an interface.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So okay. But before, what we were doing is working on interact with the browser or.
Yeah.
And now we're interacting with the terminal.
Terminal. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So you can pass something inside your application.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it stores as an array, as you saw, that was an array, and basically, for us, yeah, this is a question for you. If you running this command, what is the length for the for that array will be?
Isn't it 4?
Yeah, 2 by default and 2 extra, right? Yeah, 4. That is correct. So let's go and see what do we have here. Let me just check. So here you can destruct your const. Remember the syntax from destructuring: process argv, and you can. So as you said, we always have two default values. So we want to avoid first one, we want to avoid the second one, and then we want to have our args that we are actually passing. Args, for example. Right? Does it make sense?
Yeah, just to understand. So process, it's would you define it as an object or?
So yeah, process is a global object. It's a huge global object that gives you ability to get data about your lab, about your machine, what's going on, all different processes, etc.
Got it. And you always have to code it like as require parentheses process.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
Okay, so now if I console log our args, rerun the code, we have v2, right? Because we pass in our args. So that is why we don't do anything with first two, we just get in this one, right?
Yeah.
So now we actually can interact, we can destruct, let's actually communicate with our node. We can do like name equals, oh right, sorry. So now we get in just one, but I want to get all of them, the rest. So I'm avoiding first two, and the rest will return us everything else. So now if I'm passing, for example, name, Alex, and age 28, I haven't saved, sorry. We're getting an array, right, of things. So now we basically can get data from here. Or we can theoretically do something with separate with question mark, and we can do something like split here to get them separate items from here. It doesn't matter. So for us, for example, let's actually pass some data in console log stuff. So here we want to pass name and age. So manually we can get what do we want to get? Const name equals, we will find element from inside our args that includes name, right? Then we can use another JavaScript method, strip JS on. And you can basically, so with strip, where is the, is it trim or strip? I think it. So, okay, strip, what is trim? Trim, wait a second. Yeah, still the same. So it just, I think that strip allows you to pass, yeah, it's just a package. Okay, fair enough. So it's just trim. What you can do is find this one. So basically you'll find the element, right? You'll find your first thing. Then how can you get just an Alex? So you will get basically this with your include. How can you get just Alex? Any ideas? String manipulation.
So what is the include? Sorry, I maybe
so we are checking, do we have
Oh, yeah, okay. Do we have names in the args?
Yeah, so theoretically, that will return just, wait a sec, fine. Maybe we want to actually look for something. I'm just thinking what is the best way
To get Alex.
yeah. We can actually do something like find potentially arg includes, right? It's just bunch of JavaScript.
Yeah.
So we will find one name, but still we will get the whole thing. But we want to get only the second part.
So you want to have, the problem is it's a string, right? So you want to have something like that checks whatever is after the equal and start from there.
We can, we basically, what can we do is, I'm pretty sure that we have packages that will destructure, so we can just use pass that kind of format and that will destructure the value, because this is pretty popular format and people definitely have that kind of packages. But what we can do manually is just replace this with that. And
That's smart.
so let me try. Yeah, right? Now we're getting just a name. Easy enough.
And you can't do, you can't do object here, it's just string, so.
Yeah. So what we can do, like if you want to get dynamically, again, more JavaScript is not something like a Node or whatever. That is why I prefer, why it's so nice to play with NodeJS, because you don't need to be stressed again with a new language. So for us, let's say if you have args, we can specify what kind of keys do we want to have, do we want to handle from the user. Keys, and we can create an object or maybe array. Let's create an array, the keys that we want to handle, like name, and we might want to handle age and maybe city. 3 things that we want to handle. So now what I can do is just take on the keys for each, or map maybe. Do we want to build a new object? Let's build a new object. So let user, right? New object. So now for each, and we have key, and we basically will do this for every single element. Like value. So find the element. If this is, if it been found, then here we will use our key, right? Interpolation equals, right? And the same we want to have here. And then we just set user key equals value. Now we can console log our user.
What do you keep the equal on line 11?
Sorry?
No, I'm just wondering, like on line 11, when you say includes key and then you left the equal.
Equal because we still want to have name equal, age equal, city equal, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, and so let's say we will fail, we will get an error, but let's see, we are getting an error. Why do we get an error? Think what we are doing here.
So we create keys with an array of 3 items. And args do we have only one item in args? Args is it 3 items in args or?
So check the query that we passed, the command. We passed
Right.
2 queries, 2 params,
Yeah.
and
so
we are looking for the third one.
Exactly. So we're missing the city.
Yeah, that is why it's failing. But we want to make it more dynamic and say, wait a sec. So now we are saying if this falsy, if this will return us undefined, we don't want to do replace, right? This is the optional chaining in JavaScript. Does anyone know what is that? How it works? Because does anyone remember? Because I showed you the other day.
Yeah. Is it the ternary?
So if we inspect here, I just want to show you an example. So let's say I have const user, which we will const user equals, okay, name Alex, like this. So if I do user.name, I have my Alex, right?
Yeah.
And if I do user.age, I have undefined. But if I do name dot, I don't know, length, I will get 4, because 4 characters, right? Name length is 4. But if I do length here, I cannot read property length of undefined, because age doesn't exist. So you're basically breaking your code with this. But if you use optional chaining, you're saying, hey, if this exists, get the length. If not, just don't do anything. That is why we just get in undefined. Yeah. So this is optional chaining. This is a new syntax of JavaScript, and people just use it more and more because it is very useful to have it. And yeah, basically because of that, because you don't need to have something like the old way to handle this. If then do this, else return, I don't know, now. That was the old syntax, and you had that kind of conditions everywhere, like the whole application with such conditions, and especially if you want to get age dot, I don't know, or yeah, maybe size, food size, and you want to have metrical. So basically you want to check this, you want to check this, and you want to check this. Can you imagine how many conditions you need to write and the whole tree of if to handle this? Or you can just do this. Just nicely handle it. With question mark, and you're fine. And this code will not be broken. See, still undefined, no errors. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't exist because it's not a condition. But yeah, this is the whole point. So this is optional chaining, and that is why we're doing if this exists, then return, then do replace. If not, then we have undefined, and here we will have something like, let's say null. So let's actually see. Save, rerun command. Ooh. Okay, optional chaining. Wait wait a second. Node might not handle this optional chaining. Optional chaining. We might need to use a package. Node.js.
It's currently not supported in Node.js.
I think that our version of Node is Node. The same actually. How you checking the Node, right? You're hanging dice v. Oh yeah, it's not 14. I don't have for version 14. How to update Node? Anyone? Node Mac. 4 ways to update Node. What is actually the latest Node.js? Oh yeah, 14. Look at this. Why I have still 12? Come on. npm install. Okay, let's try sudo and maybe you can quickly come on and okay, sudo node module not found. Okay, I think I have. Let's try this command. I might have. No, I don't have nvm. Beautiful. What do I have? Okay, let me just upgrade. Do I have brew? I think I have brew. This is another packet. I think you also have brew because you did installation at the very beginning when you were installing your Git. Come on.
Yeah, I'm trying as well on my side. I also have the same as you.
Or we can just be very simple people and just download from here and install it. Manager package. Okay, what's going on? Let me check. Okay. Just VS Code. Updating Homebrew. Okay, great. I think we will get new Node.js in a few moments. So yeah, optional chaining is just a nice feature that everybody wants to use. Because basically, if you don't have optional chaining, what we need to do is have value, and here we want to get this replace, right? You have something like if value else you want to have null. You can do it this way, right? This condition. So let's actually, yep, as you can see, we just built an object, right? Easily with commands. And if I pass city, let's say London, now we have three things, right? But if I pass another one, I don't know, foot size 8, it will not work because we are handling only 3 arguments. So we predefined what kind of arguments we want to handle. And this is what you normally write in or read in documentation when you're creating or reading one. So you specify that we are handling that kind of key, so you can pass that kind of arguments in that kind of format. Because if you don't, you will not have it. So this is pretty much how you access into your arguments in Node.js. So let me check what not installed. Or using, we don't provide support for the pre-release version. What? It doesn't like. Okay, yeah, anyway. We did it in this way. Okay, yeah. So, any questions on this one? Before we move. No? Okay. Then the next step is require. Again, you already worked with node modules, and you remember that if you want to add something to your application, you need to use a require to add some package or some external package or internal file to your node module, to your node application. So we use require, and yep. So again, you already did it, and we have actually. Do you remember FS from your first module? Or maybe we didn't cover. I don't actually remember. Did we cover? So FS is file system. Probably not. I'm just confused with too many keywords. So FS is file system. That means that you have an access to your file system on this on your machine. So this is a pre-built. This is built in like a module or package in Node. So what we can do is like const fs require fs. So now if I create a new file, let's say create new file document dot, or I don't know, text txt, and I will write hello world, something like that. So now we can, again, all this documentation about FS is in Node module, in Node website. Let me just look NodeJS FS. File system. So to read files, read sync and read async. You can read asynchronously and synchronously. And the same for almost every command in file system. So read synchronously. So for read, you have a callback that you need to pass. So when you read, it will pass the data to the callback and you will receive it and you can handle it in the callback. Or you can have read synchronously and handle it straight away. So in our case, we can do const file. Let's actually create a function const read file that will take file name and console log const actually file content is fs read file sync file name, and here I want to see file content. So now we have this nice function. Let me put it here. We don't have this anymore, or maybe we still need to have, but I want to handle this from arguments, right? So I want to find where the not key, because it's not dynamic. So when I run my application, I want to find where's the file name key, file name. I want to find the file name and file name. And if the file name exists, so let's see if the file name exists, we want to do something. We want to const file name arg. Let's call it argument. So we are checking, does the argument exist? If argument exists, then file name will be this this one, right? So we are getting actual value of the file name argument. So now when I have my file name, I want to execute my read file with my file name, right? Does it make sense? So what we are doing, we are
Run it again, yeah, please, yeah, make it.
yeah, what we are doing here, I'm saying that please find, do we have the file name argument in my command when I execute my application. If you do have this argument, if you do have, I want to get the value, the actual file name. And when I get my file name, I will want to read this file. So I'm passing this file name, receiving it here, read this file, get the content, and console log the file.
And the format of file name, which would be this fs.
File name, wait a sec. Will be basically text.txt. I'm expecting text.txt.
So we won't have that file name equals, or will we for each file have like the?
So the command should be something like index file name equals txt dot text.txt.
Ah, okay.
Right? We have a buffer. Beautiful. So, as you can see, we just read our file, which is great. The problem is that it just, oh, wait a second, read file sync. Wait a second, sorry. I just want to show you the docs. Read file sync. So you read your file and you need to specify how to decode it. And for us, it's just UTF-8. That should be the same for us. So the second argument should be UTF-8. Now we're getting actual text, right? From the file. So we're actually reading the file. Does it make sense?
How did you locate that text dot? Because so fs file system, does it actually mean you can actually with this const you can actually look for everything on your computer, right?
Yeah, but it's not super smart. If you put something into files.
Because it's at the same level.
Yeah.
So that's why you.
Yeah, exactly. So if I put it inside files, run it, I have an error, right?
Oh, okay, you need to.
Yeah, basically, I need to have files. Like this, right?
Got it.
So now, if I rerun, I still have it. Yep.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, this is file system, and if you want to add external, you need to install npm packages, and then you can require some other packages. So again, I already mentioned that you can read and write with file system, and actually what we can do is create a write file. Const write file, file name, and we potentially want to have content, right? File name and content. So we want to create a file. So const we potentially want to have another command, but yeah, let's do for now. Let's replace it with write file. So every time I will execute my application, I want to create a file. So let's do that, or update. So const, I want to have, I don't need actually, I just do fs dot write file sync. And here I'm providing this one. And I'm providing the content. Yep. So now, content argument, I'm expecting content argument as well. So now I want to check for both. Do I have file name and content? So file name, great, content, I'm getting content, replacing, and I'm passing the second argument to my function, right? So now forget about the read file, we just writing. So if I run file name txt and then content, new text, and go to text, ooh, beautiful. I'm definitely doing something wrong. I bet that this is the order. The order is different. Let me check in their docs. Write file sync, file. Looks fine. So file, then data. So why it doesn't like what I'm passing? Let me just console log. Am I blind? Okay. All right. So, okay. So the first argument is the file name, but the second argument is wrong. For some reason we're getting file name txt. What is happening? Okay. So I want to console my args, save. Oh, space, right? So we have space, but if you do in quotes, now we have one thing, right? So we have file txt, file name, and we have content with new text. So that should be fine. So now if I console log these two, my goodness. Why nobody's seeing that? I just messed up with the variable name. Content args. Yeah, so now that should work. So now if I go to text, I have a new text, right? So I just updated the existing file. But if I go and change this text to new file txt and change hello, it just created a new file for me, right? In my system, in my laptop, just created a new file. And the same with delete. I bet that Ricardo is sleeping now because he knows everything. So yeah, and another thing is to delete is actually delete. It's just very easy to delete. Wait a second, where is it? RM, no, is it? My goodness, where is it? Sorry. Is it detach, unlink? Yeah, so this is unlink sync. So basically, if you want to remove, imagine that we want to remove, all we need to have here is just, if you have file name, and we don't need to have this, then we want just to take fs.unlink sync and the file name, which should be basically this. Let me just, we still need a variable. We don't need console, we don't need this. We just pass in, right? So you're saying that we want to remove this element. So now, if I run this command, and we have this file here, if I execute it, we just removed the file. So it doesn't exist anymore with our command, right? We can, again, this is very simple version. You might want to pass something like file name and -d to delete, or maybe, and you need to handle all of that. But this is, again, this is pure JavaScript. You're just taking your argument, checking for the argument value. If the value is this, do that. If that, do another thing, etc. So you're just writing, getting your args, parsing it to the actual data, building some logic around, and do whatever actions you want to do. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is our file system. Questions on this one?
Not for me, thanks.
Okay. Okay. So another global thing is pass. Again, this is a part of Node.js. So let me just get rid of all of that. We don't need these two. So let me console log. All documentation as usual that you can find Node.js path. You can find in the official website. So you can check what kind of properties you can use, what you can have, etc. And yeah, so basically here you have, for example, wait a second, resolve. So resolve, basically you can resolve different paths and make it static, the absolute path. So for now, if you do something like pass.resolve and write files /txt run this one, we are getting absolute path to this file, right? Why that might be useful for you? Why you might want to resolve such paths on your laptop, on your machine?
To kind of check how the file is interacting with other files that are on your laptop.
Okay.
If it was interacting with other files, basically.
So why it's, let's say why for you this is worse than this one, than the first one. Why the first one is better for your application?
Because no one has its files saved on the same. Basically, that would imply that I have on my computer, if you create a program and I install it on my computer, that I have a users and coders in whose desktop lesson files.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that is why, because when you're developing, you have your structure, your application structure, right? So it will be always the same, but the absolute path to each file will be different. Depends where you're running your application. Is it your laptop? Is it somebody else's laptop? Is it the server that you deploy in your application because this is a backend? It always will be a different thing. That is why you want to use you've provided your relative path, but you want to resolve so the application can get the data from that file or put the data to that file, right? So this is how you interacting with and getting and storing data and building paths. So that is why you want to use it. Yeah. So yeah, this is what we just did. Sorry. So, and now this is very easy for us because now you can read file and get the data from that file because you have an absolute path. And you will, if you deploy your application, it will not break your code because read file sync, right? As we did before, like with FS, read file sync, for example, and you provide in your path. If you're doing this, that will break your application, right? But if you have resolver for your path, that will work if you're deploying. Okay, let me check. Oh, we have 40 minutes. Let's actually skip the to-do list because that can be actually, you can play it with it. I think that you have a good exercises for, yeah, you have file system, HTTP server, and node module. Beautiful. Let's actually move to another stuff. Yarks. You might guess, this is what I said, that args is a native thing, but yarks is a package which allows you to have a nice structure of your arguments and you don't need to parse them manually, right? So as usual, let's copy paste it, just copy paste it. So if you go here, I need to install my npm packages. So npm init-y. Then we want npm install yarks. And let's see what we will have. Console log argv. Let's see. So now, if I run my node index and I don't know, name, right, let's start from the very basic one, right? So we're getting two things, object with two things. If I pass name equals Alex, okay, I'm having this as an array. Okay, so what is the syntax for them? Let me check. So they basically helping you to handle your commands and get as an object, so you can actually get the data. So name, let's call it I don't know, Alex. So we have an array, beautiful. Is it? I don't remember because I don't use it a lot. Yorks next and ships. Oh yeah, so this is a syntax for them. See that if I want to pass a name, I can do name equals Alex. Now it's a name as an argument. So you don't need to destructure, do all of that manually, parsing, splitting, replacing, etc. You just passing arguments in this format. Like age equals 25, right? You just build in an object. It's very easy. You just simplify how you pass your arguments. So you can use yarks, for your application as well if you need. Yeah, this is just another application, just another package. So what about servers? This is, I would say, probably the first moment when we start building something and build servers. So today we will build a server with HTTP, which is again as args, ugly, and you need to do everything manually. And that is why from Wednesday we start working with Express, and since then we will work just with Express. So HTTP is a package, but this is a pre-built package. So again, NodeJS HTTP you can find on an official website, and you can find everything, all the related stuff. But again, you probably will never use it because you will use Express. So you can build with HTTP, you can build routing, you can start server and build routes to get data, to send data from the front end to the back end. Yeah, so to create a server, it basically just creates server. So let's start actually const. What do we want to do? Yeah, just import HTTP equals require HTTP and HTTP dot create server, and we just want to run a callback function console log some message. Again, this is the very ugly syntax, and server is running. You will use Express from the next time. Right, we not actually initialized. Yeah, I'll give a sec. We will need to go through everything, so I'll show you. Yeah, so the callback, you pass in the callback to your create server, as I did here, and that will be executed every time you start in a server. You create a new server, that will be executed for you. Yeah. So this is pretty much it. So when you create in a server, you have requests and you have response. So requests means that the data that you're passing from the front end to the server. This is you can find all this data in request. But response is something that you're sending back to the front end. So you basically, with response, you just like response.send, and you send in something to the front end. And yeah, this is the very basic structure of the server. Let me just copy paste that, because to be honest, I don't remember the actual syntax for that. I don't use HTTP at all, and yeah, you will never use it again as well. So let me just quickly, you probably want to be familiar with this syntax. Response right, node, why is it not running? Wait a second, let me just double check. Ricardo, are you here? Ricardo?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you tell me, is it different in PHP? So do you manually handle all of it, or Laravel handle everything and you have a lean syntax?
No, in PHP, there's a huge trend about using frameworks similar to what we will be doing with Express. I like to do hard coding. I build my own MVC framework to start with, but the server is already running. Once you install the PHP and the Apache on the server, the server is already running.
Okay, got you. Okay, yeah. So let's actually create a server. So let's call it server. So we are in this server. So we created a new server, assign into a variable, and now we can listen that server. Listen. And you can specify port, on which port you want to listen, like 3000, for example. So if I run it, you can see we have nothing, but it's not closing. But we can pass the second argument as a callback. And let's do this console log listening on port 3000. So let's rerun. Now you can see that we are running something in the port 3000, right? So let's say that if we hit this endpoint, just root endpoint 3000, you want to respond with something. You want to send the data back to the user. So let me just let's start for actually and console log. I want to console log the very what do we have in request? As you can see, nothing is happening, right? So I have this, but nothing is happening. That is why you need to install Postman, which is the application where you, without building a front end, you can just test your backend. Let me just show you here some old stuff. So this is a Postman. Let me just send it to you. Ricardo, do you use Postman, by the way?
We use it obviously on the front end to test what we're getting in response from the APIs mostly.
Yeah. This is why we use Postman. So here you need to install Postman for your applications, for your exercises, and for your projects. So this is a must-have tool. And in our case, we just test HTTP localhost 3000. So we have nothing because we not sending back anything. But because we just sent a request to the server, we triggered this function, and now we have some data here, right? We had a lot of data. This is a huge object. And one of these, you have URL, which says root and method get. So let's say if, again, this is very ugly version because this is a pure HTTP. So if request URL equals root and request method, right? Because we have method is get. You might remember from the front end that with get you're getting data, with post you're posting, with patch and delete you can do other things, right? Is get. You want to send data to the user. So let's say you want to response. Let's actually check the docs response. Wait a second. Response dot send. That should be send. Where is this? Get a train connection, cork and finished. Flush get header. Okay, just quickly. Let me check that. So, right, you can actually, let me think, you can actually end with something. You can end with hello. So you closing the call with end, response end. So now if you go to the to this one, to Postman, and hit send again, where's our response? Any ideas? Did we ever hit it? Oh, right, sorry. This is a common trick that you need to remember, because you might ask me about that many times. So it's not working, but it's not working because we're still running old server with old code. So we need to terminate the server because we did changes, rerun, and now we should have a new thing. As you can see, we're sending hello to the front end, right? So this is basically front end. You do in fetch to 3000 and you get in response. Does it make sense?
Yeah. So Postman is your front end, or you said it to check the server is working? Or?
Yeah, basically front end. You don't need to build like create HTML, JavaScript, create fetch, etc. to fetch data or send data. You don't need to create all of that when you are a backend developer, for example. You are not working with this. But you can mock this fetch here. You can say, I want to imitate get call to this URL.
Okay.
Or I can change it to, I want to post something and I want to pass body, which will be, I don't know, JSON. And I want to post something to the server where I will have name, Alex, right? And I'm posting something to the server. And age, I don't know, 25. Yeah. So you're imitating. So let's actually check that if we have this, but method post, let's console log what we have in request. Request. No daemon. Maybe we can run just no daemon. So now if I hit send, we're not ending because we don't have end here, right? We potentially want to have some end with nothing for now. For now is nothing. So if I click, it ended. And let's see, where do we have our data? Because I presume that should be somewhere in body. It is a huge object. So status, upgrade, trail, row headers, header, parser, server, my goodness, readable connection. Okay, so again, timeout, server. Okay, let's probably, that will be quicker to Google the port HTTP get body NodeJS. HTTP. So they have request. Oh, wait a sec. So they have. Oh yeah, right. You probably need to have request options, header status, stringify headers on chunk response on. Really? This is very dirty. Should be HTTP get. HTTP.get. NodeJS. Get headers. So this one. All right, no, this is imitating get. It's not actually what we want. We have create server option. We have callback. Let me just double check. So body using Node.js. Yeah, this is Axios. Express. It's very hard to Google for HTTP because people just don't use it. But they have owned. Okay. So they have own data. Let's see.
On the Twitter app, like there was this thing like you upload a picture. Like, I found a lot of like different like jQuery and I think also some React language. I couldn't find like clean JavaScript, but you know.
Yep. So okay, let's just not get a response. So we have request, right? Because we have request, not rec. Okay. Send. Okay, as you can see, we got an object, right? So that should be on. And now we can parse this object. Dot JSON. Remember the same that you're doing on the front end. You're just parsing the object. So now if you're sending data to your server, send, and you got the user data on the backend. So you can store it in the files. For example, you can create a file and add it to the file. Yeah? Does it make sense? So this is post method. And you can actually respond with and user has been created. So now if I hit again, I'm getting user has been created. And we might do something like we can send as an object again and specify, I believe, the second param, response end.
Why is there any need to have promises here?
Sorry?
I don't know. Whenever we were dealing with the, I mean, I guess it was when we were on the front end talking to the server, we always had to put in promises.
Yeah. Yeah, but here
we're not.
Because every single function will be triggered only when you hit the endpoint. So you get from the server side, it's like you just giving data straight away.
Because we're on the server. Okay. So
yeah, it's not running.
On the side, you are fetching from the server, so you don't know when it's coming back.
Yeah, yeah. And the server, you invoke something on the server only when you hit and give some data.
Got it.
That is why you're not waiting for that in this point.
So we're gonna see the whole loop. It's quite cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically now we can respond with a message, and let's say user has been created. If he sent like this, beautiful, we just broke something. Yeah, right, we need to stringify JSON stringify. You send in data and you can specify the type of that. I think it should be just JSON. Let's try. Yeah. Wait a sec. Request. Oh, this is, wait a sec. This is response. So response, again, it just, when you don't use it, dot end JSON. So what do they do? Response dot, oh, okay. They actually have JSON. So JSON. But I feel like that might be an actual express syntax. .json. It looks like it. Yeah, it's definitely not. This is express. Stringify and JSON. They're not specifying. Okay, yeah, they are not specifying the type, which is crazy. It should be the way. But they are not specifying the type of your response. That is why it's not formatted. So if I'm doing as we did with this, we're responding with an object, but it's not formatted. So if I change it to JSON, it will be formatted. But this one doesn't know what's going on. Is it JSON or not? But you still can pass data from the server as an object. So we can parse it on the front end. And here, as you can see, we're just getting the actual user. So let's actually add quickly, let's add file system and write our user to the file. So const add user to database DB. So we will pass user. Here we want to do to basically to take fs.write file sync. We want to pass let's say files, and let's say we have the pretty static one like users.json, and here we will add user. You will see the problem in a second, but let's just have it for now as it is. So here, where I'm getting my user, const new user, I have my new user, right? So now I can store it into database. New user. You will see where is the problem. So for now, I don't have this file. Let me actually delete this one as well. I don't need it. So I don't have any file. And now if I'm hitting the endpoint, I just created a user JSON file, right? So if I open, I have an object, beautiful. So we have a few problems. First, this is an object. So technically I don't want to parse it. I just want to pass data straight away. Let's try. Send. And now I have just one object. If I try to hit again, or let's say I want to have I want to add another one, Sam, send. Now I have Sam, so we're just replacing, right? So file system is actually, it's what you actually want to do is first you want to const read the existing file, right? Users in DB, where you will have file system read file sync. You'll read your file, right? And you want to specify that that will be JSON in our case. So now you're getting your file, but another point is that that should be an array. So you take in your file. Let's actually console log what do we have there, right? So log user in DB. So hit the endpoint, got an error. Oh, right, sorry. So file system doesn't like the JSON format. Let me try again. We have a buffer, beautiful. So fs decode JSON. This is how you normally do that. So parse, all right, they do just parse. Right, so you want to do JSON parse and your user data. So let's add raw user, and then you have parse and your user data. Let's see what we will get. Hit, we have an array, beautiful. So here we still want to pass an object. So const new user. Why we want to pass an object? Because we will have an array and we will have a new object as a new user. We want to add this to array and store this array into our file, right? So every time you add in a new user, we take everything from the file as an array, put a new object to that array, put it back to the file. So JSON dot string parse data. So now we are doing what we are doing. We have raw. We want to const users in DB, and we just parsing users from DB, and then we are doing dot push, right, our new user, and then we are storing back our users, and we want to stringify them. JSON.stringify. Let's test it. So for now, it's empty array. Hit the endpoint. We have one user, Sam. Let's test another, Alex. Hit another. We have two users, right? So we're storing data in our database on every click. And actually we can create something to send data back to the front end. As we have here for get, we can actually send something like, we can read data and we can send data to the user, to the front end. So if I hit, I'm getting third user, I'm sending third user, but if I change it to get method, I'm getting my users back, right? So now I'm sending data to the database and getting back to the front end. Does it make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Also, what is the problem with working working with files. What do you think is the problem? Why people not using like JSON files just to store data and get data?
Because it's difficult to read.
Sorry?
Because it's not readable. I don't know.
No. So every time we want to get to store something into database, we need to read file. Where is it? Here. We need to read the whole file, parse it to the object, add something to that object, stringify it back and store back to the file. And imagine that your database has hundreds of thousands of records. So you're taking like 50 megabytes of data, converting to the object, adding one more, converting back to string, and store it back to file. And you have you're operating with a huge amount of, like huge files basically. It's very heavy. It's not efficient. That is why people prefer to work with, and like everybody's working with databases, because you actually you can just add data to the database directly or get this specific element, specific item from the database. So you don't need to move the whole elephant from one to the side to another.
Yeah.
So again, here we have how we can get data. Here we have how we can post data and store it in database. Now we actually sending data from the front end to the back end and from the back end to the front end. Pretty simple. Any questions? Any questions? Okay then. So for this module, again, install, and for first exercises, I will deploy them in a few minutes. Install Postman, install NodeJS if you don't have it. So npm NodeJS.
Is it like a GitHub? Like, do you need to have a login, or is it?
No, you don't need to register yourself. It's a free app. Postman is a free app. You can download it. You can register, and that will synchronize your queries with the server, with their cloud. But for you, it doesn't matter.
Got it.
Yeah. And yeah, so for you, you'll have exercises with file system, with HTTP server and Node modules. Hopefully you will have fun with them. By the way, for this module, I'll deploy it probably today or tomorrow. The project will be stock market. So you need to build a real-time stock market that will parse data from the stock market and build chart. And you can have five. So what the idea is that you have 5 shares, that you have a balance, and you have 5 shares that you can buy, and you can buy and sell, and that will increment or decrement your balance. And you need to keep the record of all your transactions with purchase price and selling price, etc. So we have quite a few routes for that you need to build, but that should be fun. And real-time changing prices. If you have spare time, it would be really great for you to add on the front end to add some graphics where you will source your data like every second or whatever, or every update, and that will change the graph, so you'll see the chart actually. So that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are we using a tool for that, like the graph, or?
So you don't build graphs like manually. We have huge packages for things like graphs, and like chart pies, etc. That you just use it just other packages. So you just need to provide data, you need to style it, format it, but the whole logic to have a graph is actually implemented. So you just need to import it and use it.
Got it.
Yeah. So I think this is it. Again, from Wednesday we will start using Express, and we'll have a lot of exercises with Express, because this is the tool that people use like on daily basis. That is why we're not focusing on HTTP things. Yep. Anything else? Any other questions?
Thank you so much. I gotta run now.
Okay. Thank you then,
Thank you.
and see you next week.
Quite a lot to learn. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. See ya.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.